Matthew chapter 2 verses 1 to 12. We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage. When Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of King Herod, behold, Magi from the east arrived in Jerusalem, saying, Where is the newborn King of the Jews? We saw his star at its rising, and have come to do him homage. When King Herod heard this, he was greatly troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. Assembling all the chief priests and the scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They said to him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for thus it had been written through the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, since from you shall come a ruler, who is to shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod called the Magi secretly and ascertained from them the time of the star's appearance. He sent them to Bethlehem and said, Go and search diligently for the child. When you have found him, bring me word, that I too may go and do him homage. After their audience with the king they set out. And behold, the star that they had seen at its rising preceded them, until it came and stopped over the place where the child was. They were overjoyed at seeing the star, and on entering the house they saw the child with Mary his mother. They prostrated themselves and did him homage. Then they opened their treasures and offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed for their country. The Gospel of the Lord. The name Bethlehem means house of bread. Jesus certainly was, and is, the bread of life. Bethlehem was the ancestral home of David. In contrast to Luke chapter 2 verses 1 to 7 where there is only a brief mention of Jesus' birth. Matthew gives far more details of the birth. Matthew speaks of Magi while Luke speaks of shepherds. The Magi were Gentiles. The shepherds were social outcasts. King of the Jews was the official title of Herod the Great. The Magi's question would have been interpreted as referring to a rival of Herod Antipas. A person using that title would have posed political danger to Herod's authority. King of the Jews was also the title that was attached to the cross as the charge on which Jesus was crucified. Herod was not the rightful heir to the throne of David, therefore, many Jews hated him because he was not entitled to the throne. If Jesus really was an heir, trouble would arise. Herod was ruthless, and because of his many enemies, he was suspicious that someone would try to overthrow him. Herod didn't want the Jews, a religious people, to unite around a religious figure. If these Magi were of Jewish descent from Parthia, the most powerful region next to Rome, they would have welcomed a Jewish king who could swing the balance of power away from Rome. The land of Israel, far from Rome, would have been easy prey for a nation trying to gain more control. The leading priests and teachers of religious law were aware of Micah 5 verse 2 and other prophecies about the Messiah. The Magi's news troubled Herod because he knew that the Jewish people expected the Messiah to come soon. Most Jews expected the Messiah to be a great military and political leader, like Alexander the Great. Herod did not want to worship Christ, he was lying. This was a trick to get the Magi to return to him and reveal the whereabouts of the newborn king. Herod's plan was to kill Jesus. Most religious leaders believed in a literal fulfillment of all Old Testament prophecies. They believed the Messiah would be born in Bethlehem. Ironically, when Jesus was born, these same religious leaders became his greatest enemies. When the long-expected Messiah finally came, they didn't want to recognize him. After all, if they did, they would lose control of the people. Matthew chapter 2 verse 11. And on entering the house they saw the child with Mary his mother. Luke chapter 2 verse 7. She wrapped him in swaddling and laid him in a manger. In ancient times people kept animals in a certain portion of their homes. For some this was a lower level of a two-story home. For others it was a portion of the home set apart for animals. Whether, in a manger or house, the fact remains, Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Gold, frankincense, and myrrh. These valuable gifts were clearly intended to honor Jesus, but it's possible they carried deeper theological significance as well. Gold was certainly not only a gift of wealth but a recognition of a king's importance. Frankincense, again very costly, was closely associated with temple worship and was the only incense permitted at the altar. Myrrh was a key ingredient in the mixture of spices that was used to prepare bodies for burial. Matthew tells us that as soon as the wise men departed, an angel of the Lord came to warn Joseph of Herod's anger. Joseph was instructed to seek protection in Egypt, a journey of over 100 miles. It seems likely the gifts were used to finance the family's trip to Egypt. Do not follow your heart. Follow the promptings of the Holy Spirit.